kitty cat country. I gotta remember not to lean on this desk because I have you on a bit of a stand right now. So, anyways, this is a talk that I've been promising you guys. Um, and it's not, I mean, it's serious, but it's not, you know? So, like, I just wanted to share some things with you that helped me along the way. And these are, well, I'll get to it. But, I'll try to give some examples to see if maybe that this helps you, resonates with you. But basically, I wrote down my notes finally because, as I mentioned before, they're on my phone. And I thought it was going to be like a huge thing. It felt like a huge weight. Like I felt like I had an overload of things in my brain to unload. But when I jotted it down on paper, the messages were simple. And it's funny how that works sometimes. It's funny how how my mind can work that way. And that thought of things being larger than they actually are, relates to a lot of things, you know? So I'll give you, well, let me just go through the list and stop being so fucking vague. All right, so one of the things that helps me is just to talk. I wrote here, talk about it, even if it seems like a small problem. I know this probably seems cliche, this probably seems like a duh, but for me, it's not a duh. One of the things that I wrote on here too is I often forget lessons and just like basic human coping skills that I've learned. I'll forget them and I'll have to relearn them all over again. So I find myself in phases of my life, and I'm not talking years, you know, I'm talking like within a few weeks. Sometimes I forget a lesson in a week and I have to relearn it. Sometimes it's a month. But I forget lessons, important lessons, and I just have to relearn them because I think I just have a default way of dealing with just life experiences. And as a result, these small experiences, these small uncomfortable experiences, interactions, maybe negative interactions with people, friends, coworkers, sometimes they accumulate. And they come out in the accumulation of these problems that I just keep shoving away and forgetting to talk about. They come out in a way, in different ways, right? Sometimes it's an outburst, and sometimes it's an intense feeling, an intense reaction to a mediocre experience, a mediocre conversation, something that where the experience is here and my reaction is up here, and it doesn't need to be like, it doesn't match, you know? So that's a red flag for me. That's how I know I need to start jotting down those things that are bothering me because I remember them, you know? I'm not going to sit here in front and be like, I'm fine. Nothing's bothering me. No, I know what bothers me, and sometimes I front with myself, and that's because sometimes like, something dumb will bother me, right? Seemingly dumb. But once I break it down, I realize that it's not so dumb. Because maybe, just maybe, I am at fault because I didn't maintain the boundary with a certain person, or maybe I didn't realize there was a boundary to be set with a particular person, and now I'm the one drinking the poison, being bitter about it, you know what I mean? So I use that phrase a lot, drinking the poison, because like, say someone cuts you off and they drive off, you know, you're the one stewing in it, you're essentially the one drinking the poison, right? They're living rent free in your home, in your mind, and they're just living their life, you know? So that's what I mean by drinking poison. So just in case you hear this more often in the future from me. Um, so verbalizing it, right? Verbalizing those small things. Again, like that boundary example. Maybe it was just somebody being an asshole, and sometimes I find that talking about it helps. It makes it more manageable. It turns into this, like, I just made, like, in my head, this experience. I just made a house for it in my head, right? I just laid out a foundation. I just put up the walls. I just put up the windows. I just put up the doors. I just put up the roof. And I just turned it into this huge thing. And once I verbalize it, now it's just become, I don't know, something as small as a grain of salt, you know? Now it's small. But just hearing it makes it seem manageable, I guess. Sometimes I realize how silly I'm being. And sometimes I like to check in with people that I trust to tell me if I'm being the asshole, or if it's just not a big deal. You know what I mean? Because sometimes, like I said, I can overthink. I am just that person. Um, and say something like, I've been in situations, because I go to therapy, I've been in situations where I'm talking to my therapist, and I talk about something or someone, and I get really emotional. Or it could be like I'll give you an example. I was talking to my therapist, and I was talking about older people and how lonely they can get. And I was just getting really emotional because I think I saw it like in a movie or something. And something about that just made me very sad. So we talked about it. But you see what I mean? Like, and then we got to the bottom of it, right? Like, I identify with loneliness, and like I'm still grappling with that, like, because like for the most part of my life I felt just really alone. So like it's something that I can relate to. And even now, like, I get emotional about it because just the concept of loneliness just, I don't know, it just it hits home for me. So anyways, so that's what I mean, like, just sitting and, like, sitting with your thoughts, they can really help. um Excuse me. Just sitting with your thoughts can help because, like, say, man, like, this particular topic, like this loneliness, I'm gonna write it down, and I'm gonna sit in silence and then just think, just follow the thoughts. Sometimes that helps me. And in this particular instance, I followed the thought with my therapist, but I could do it on my own if I wanted to. So, like, being in silence, this is something that helps me get familiar with my feelings and my thoughts. Like, the tense emotion of loneliness. And sometimes it's the thought, you know? Like, say, I'll give you an example. When I say thought, I mean, um, there was this thing that happened at work, and when I walked away from the situation, I thought, next time it happens, this is what I'm gonna do. This is what I'm gonna say. And then I thought, I brought it up to my therapist, and I was like, what do you think? And she says, I don't know about you, but I know myself. And I know that when I'm in those kinds of situations, I like to be right, you know? And I am very self righteous. And as a result, I like to say things to shame them. And that's what my motivation is. Prior to having that conversation with her, I've heard a phrase, a saying. The saying was, does it, like, whenever you're confronted in a situation where you could have the upper hand and then just say something mean, or maybe you just, call someone out, the saying is, does it need to be said? Does it need to be said by you? And does it need to be said right now? Right? That was the advice I was given when I was learning basic human coping mechanisms. That never really resonated with me because I didn't really understand it. And maybe it's just because I didn't learn like other people who were given this advice. And that was years ago. So this was brought up again in my therapy session. And when I was talking with my therapist, she's like, let me break it down for you. And she told me that about, being self righteous, not having the most honest motivations. Because she asked me, she's like, if you were to have this experience again, what would your motives be? Would it be because you're going to say it in a respectful way so that you can inform her, or are you just trying to shame this person? And then that's when it clicked for me. That feeling I had, I knew I was angry, but I didn't understand that the reason why I wanted to say something to this person the next time this hypothetical experience were to arise again, was because I wanted to shame them. That's what my motivation was. And once I made that connection in my head, I didn't want to say it anymore. But that's just me, So that's what I mean. Like, sometimes labeling your thoughts, your intention, like just putting labels to your intentions, because I knew what the feeling was. I was angry. And I'm pretty sure if I would have sat with it a little longer instead of being distracted by my phone or YouTube or whatever, I probably would have been able to connect the dots and realize what my true motivation was, because that's the next part, right? Like, why, because if my motivation is to shame, she was like, think about how that conversation would have ended. And she's right. I probably would end up in HR. But if I had gone in with an intention of like trying to inform, like something like that, something honest like that, like something coming from a good place, then I wouldn't be getting angry. I would just be sharing information, and trying to get onto the same page. Like I would be doing these things so that we could work together, teamwork and all this other stuff, collaboration, all this other stuff. But that was not my intention. And because that was not my intention, I'm pretty sure the end of that conversation would have ended in a shouting match. And that's why I would have ended in HR, because my intentions were not honest, I guess. Like, you know what I mean? So, anyways, so I know for some people being in silence is difficult. Sitting in one place and then just being without distractions can be difficult. Today I tried something else. I tried jogging. With no music, and that helped. So meditation can look like different things. It can look like a walk, it can look like a jog, it can look like all sorts of things, and as long as you can hear your thoughts at the end of it, then like while you're doing it, then I would say that's a good meditation session. It could be yoga, it could be stretching, it doesn't have to be anything hardcore like that, because I've done yoga meditation before, and the reason why that helps me is because sometimes yoga meditation helps me be present and pay attention to aches and pains in my body. And when that happens, then I know I should stretch more. I should probably work out that part of my body more, or I find solutions when I'm doing these things, right? So meditation is important. And I will say, one thing that happens to me while I'm meditating, and if I haven't meditated in a long time, my to-do list gets very loud. My to-do list, my solution list, like sometimes I'll be in meditation and I'll be like, you know what, I should start including this in meditation, and I'll write it down. Because if I don't, that thought gets louder and louder. I know in some meditations it tells you just accept the thought and just, keep it moving. But for me, sometimes it just gets too loud. I have to stop. I'll write down what I need, I'll write down my thought, and then I'll continue to meditate. And let me tell you, that fucking helps. That helps a lot when I'm trying to sleep, because I try to do body scanning meditation whenever I'm trying to sleep. Like, I focus on my breathing, and then that helps me go into like a sleep state. And when I'm doing that, I that's the optimal time for my brain to remember, hey, you have to do laundry. Oh, you have that load of fucking wash in the dryer. You you should add this to your shopping list when you go to the grocery store. It always happens that way. But anyways, I wanted to share these things for you, not just because they've helped me and I want to share the benefits that I've reaped from these lessons myself, but because this is like the optimal time for some people. Not just because it's the holidays, but sometimes it's the weather, depending on where you're watching from. But sometimes it's the weather, it's the season, whatever. Sometimes these times like these are the most like essential times to just grab hold of your toolbox with the things that are gonna get you through, and just hold on tight and just don't freaking forget. And if you're one person to forget, then journal. Maybe journaling is for you. I've tried journaling myself and it's really fucking hard to be consistent, but with vlogmas maybe I can learn to be consistent with that as well, because it wouldn't hurt. That's Journaling wouldn't hurt. Anyways, so I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'm really glad I was able to get this down on paper, because sometimes my thoughts get very jumbled. I hope you got something out of it. And if you did, share it with someone, of course, if they ask for advice, because non-solicited advice can be annoying depending on who you're asking. But like, if you have a cool relationship with somebody and you see somebody struggling, like, offer it up, and I'm pretty sure they're not gonna hate you for it. You know what I mean? You're coming from a good place after all. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this installation of vlogmas, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Okay, take care of yourself and take care of each other. Bye.